Hi everyone, it's Shaw from Scrap Secrets and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is the unboxing of the My Monthly Hero Arts September kit, as well as creating a shaker card with some of the contents. So we're going to start off by talking about the kit. There are two different kinds. There's the classic and the premium. The kit that I'm going to be showing you is the classic. They both come in these really adorable reusable pouches. They're fantastic. I store every month's kit in them, and they're also packed with great product. So the first thing I'm showing you is the Unicorn Lacquer Pen. I have several other colors from other kits, and they're fantastic for adding some shine. There's also 4 core ink cubes: spicy mustard, caramel, cherry, and espresso. And it also comes with an idea card that'll show you 2 projects for the classic kit and 2 for the premium. And there are the contents on the back. As I'm reviewing them, you can see the additional ones that are in the premium kit. This is the Coordinating Fall Window Die. And then that's the stamp set, the 4x6 Fall Messages Clear stamp set. And you can see that the messages fit nicely into that die. There are the 8 clear card panels that can be used for shaker cards. And here are the 3 color layering stencils. And those are the products that we're going to use. We're going to use the stencils, the Coordinating Fall Window Die, as well as the ink cubes to go, and the one of the clear card panels to create a card for my aunt. If you guys remember in my haul video for Hero Arts, I think I told you that my aunt is going through chemo and radiation for breast cancer, and I wanted to make her an encouraging card before she starts. So I have this other stamp set from Hero Arts. It's called Fall Fox, and I took out this one fox with the acorn and stamped it onto some Kraft cardstock. I saw Dawn W do a colored pencil technique on Kraft with it might have been these similar images, and I was like, let me see if I can recreate it, and you'll have to let me know if you saw her video. Let me know how I did. What I did was I stamped them out in some Sweet Tooth MFT white pigment ink, put it to the side to let it dry because pigment ink takes longer to dry than your regular ink does. So I'm going to line up the first stencil with the die cut. So you can stencil first or die cut first. It doesn't really matter. I tend to die cut first and then stencil. I'm going in with some ink cubes, and the first one that I am using is Pale Tomato. So this one was not included in the kit. The cherry one was, and then the bottom one, Crimson, was not included either. I did grab a few additional ink cubes, and these must be from kits because I don't tend to buy ink cubes for myself. I bought some for the girls, but I tend to reach for full ink pads more than I would the cubes. And you can see here, I'm just adding color down to the bottom part where it would be a little bit darker of the mushrooms. And I'm just going in and adding color where I think. Some of these images, it's hard to really even tell what you're stenciling. But the great part about this is when you stencil, it doesn't really matter what color you put down, because as long as you use complementary colors, it all looks really good together. I was very unsure of how this was all going to turn out. I thought it was going to be a big hodgepodge. I wasn't loving it until I pulled that final stencil off, and I was like, I couldn't believe the images. I couldn't believe the result of it. So love these color layering stencils, and I should never have doubted myself, but I did. So while you're watching me with the rest of the stenciling, I thought that I would do a little bit of story time. I've been in my job for 2 months now, and I'm loving it. I have some travel coming up over the next couple weeks and months, and I'm very excited to do that. I'm learning a lot. We'll be learning a brand new system. Everybody will be learning it, so kind of be on an even playing field. I won't be the new person anymore, although there's 2 people that got hired after me, so there's definitely a bunch of newbies that are learning from each other. So it's nice to have people that are going through the same thing that you are. And on the cat and kitten front, everybody is really good. Lucy is doing well. She does have some arthritis, so we give her Cosequin 1 to 2 times a day, depending on how she's doing. But she's still going up and down the steps, and she definitely puts the boys in their place. They know that she is queen, and they definitely bow down to her. Oh, Oreo is more like a dog cat than just a cat. He will steal things. He loves stealing paper and socks. Those are his two big things. He was eating some scrap pieces of paper earlier in the craft room. So he got kicked out for a little while. We went and had lunch and then came back downstairs. And now they're both napping down here, which is fantastic because it means they're not into everything. He climbs onto the top of my headboard and walks across it. I'm afraid that he's going to fall off one night in the middle of the night and just land on my head. But, he can't stop him from doing any of that. And then Brownie is definitely a cat. He gets into everything. He has been opening cabinet doors. He has chewed holes through Lucy's bag of food. He chewed about a 3-inch hole so that he could get to the food, even though he had a full bowl of food and water right on the other side of the island. He loves being mischievous. And then the other day, I actually turned around and saw him hanging from the water dispenser ledge on the front of the refrigerator door. So you have the dispenser, and then there's that little ledge at the bottom where you put the cup on, and that's where he was hanging from. And he loves to get into the freezer or the fridge. Whenever I open the door, he's right there and trying to get in it. I've actually closed him in there by accident and opened it back up, and he was in the bottom shelf of the refrigerator. So he's just being a crazy kitten, and so is Oreo, but they're doing really well, and they've adjusted to living here. I think Lucy's still adjusting to them, but everybody's doing really well. Okay, so let's get back to the card. Now that all of that ink blending is done, I'm going to take my white gel pen and add some dots to all of the mushrooms. I didn't show you all of them because it's very repetitive, but I just, on that one on the very bottom, I was only going to do it on a couple of them, and I love the way it turned out. I think I'd like the way it turned out on ones that don't have embossing on it. That big one really doesn't have a lot of embossed lines, but I probably shouldn't have put it on all of them. If I did it over again, that's probably how I would do it. I also put a little bit of white gel pen into the pine cone because I accidentally did the lighter color first and then the darker color on top of it when I did stenciling. But again, this is the first time I've ever done it, so I'm giving myself some grace. Now I'm trying to figure out where that fox is going to go. Am I going to do one? Am I going to do two? But I decided that I'm just going to do the one on the inside of the shaker card. And I'm also going to be using some cardstock from Lawn Fawn. It's the Fall Fling 6x6 petite paper pack, and it is this green one here. I cut it down as well as the clear card panel from the kit, and we are going to start creating the shaker part. But before we do that, when I was holding the paper up against each other, I was realizing that it looked too stark white against that back paper and against the colors of the stenciling. So what I decided to do was grab a blending brush that already had a little bit of probably vintage photo on it. That's vintage photo. And decided to go around the edges of the card and just add that on there, kind of covering up most of the white so that it wasn't stark white. And I'm going in with a light hand first, and then I'll go in with a little bit more of a heavy hand and a little bit more towards the stenciled part versus just being on the edge, because I wanted to kind of give it a little bit of an aged look. You could have used Kraft cardstock, and like I said, I had already had the Kraft cardstock cut out when I cut out this white piece, but I also wanted the colors to be nice and vibrant. And when you're on Kraft cardstock, unless you do a layer of white pigment ink underneath of it, the colors are not as vibrant. So now I'm going to get ready to add glue to the back of the opening so that I can put my acetate piece on. Because I'm cheap, I cut down that acetate panel to just perfectly fit on here. So I cut down one side to, I think it's 3.5 inches, and it was just wide enough to hit all of the parts on there. I did have to slide it over a little bit because I did miss one piece And if you don't cover the whole entire thing, your sequins or whatever you put inside is going to come flying out. So you can see here, I lined it all up, but on the right, I missed one side, one little piece. So I did slide it over just a tiny, tiny bit and then went through and wiped off any glue that may have seeped out. I usually would use tape for this, but my adhesive roller, my ATG, did not have any adhesive in it. I used it all and just never refilled it. So now next I'm going to create my shaker well. And what I do is I take my 3M foam tape and fold it over after I've taken both sides of the backing off of it. And I'm going to start creating that well. I'm only going to show you the top and the bottom because I do the rest the same. And then I'm also going to put pieces of foam tape around the bottom of it. Now, if you want to create a really wide shaker well, you could go around all of the edges of the cardstock and then just have a really large shaker well. But I wanted it to be concentrated in the areas right around that opening. So what I also did was when I folded it over so the edges are on the inside closer to where the shaker pieces are going to be, because the sticky on there is not as bad as the sticky on the other side would be, if that makes sense. Now I'm going back in to color in my foxes. And like I said, this was a technique that I saw Dawn W. do, and she did a fantastic job with it. So she stamped out an image onto Kraft cardstock in white and then used a white pencil to lay a soft layer of color down and then went over top of it with a bunch of colors. The tail, I think, came out so well. I really, really liked it, and I thought that it looked really good. The body I wasn't totally crazy about, but now it's sitting on my desk and I'm looking at it as I'm doing the voiceover, and it definitely looks better than it did when I originally did it. So you're going to have to let me know what you guys think. So again, I'm just layering colors on, trying not to put too much color down. Now, I am using a mix of Prismacolor, Kraft, and I think it's called, is it Life Touch? Is that one of the million Hobby Lobby private label brands? They have so many of them. That way they can say like, oh, only this one is on sale for 50% off. And, so they have like Life Touch, and they have, is it 305 or 345, 543 or whatever it is? I think it's the area code. They have that brand, and then they had, I can't even remember. They have a bunch of brands. So anyway, the colored pencils that I have are a hodgepodge because I cannot find my regular sharpener. So I'm using an Up and Up brand, which is super cheap. I think they were like 50 cents when the school supplies were on sale last year. But there's one pencil that keeps falling apart. It's a Prismacolor one. The white Prismacolor one, I could not get that to sharpen for anything. And the one that I have is a Prismacolor sharpener, and it has where you can get like a really nice fine point to it. But since I can't find it, it's not helping me. So I'm probably going to have to go out and buy another one, and then I will find it, I'm sure. I just tried to do the best that I could with the sharpest pencils that I possibly could. I just kept sharpening them to see if I could get a better point on them. One of the tips that she gave was the sharper the point was, the better it's going to be. But unfortunately, I just couldn't do it. It wasn't working, and I went with what I had. So again, I'm just going to lay down a wash of that white colored pencil, go in with my lighter one, color pretty much the whole thing in, and then go back in, kind of like what I do with my Copic markers. Oh, it's just really going in and priming the paper and then going and putting colors on top of each other. Now, the head of the fox kind of gave me a little bit of trouble. It wasn't really working. It's actually kind of like the mouth part of it I wasn't really loving the way that it came out. And then I did not end up using the acorn that I'm coloring in here. I just don't think it came out right. It was too little, and it's whatever. So now I am going and adding the brown to the feet. And this is the part that I really didn't like. I didn't like the way that it came out. I didn't love it. To me, it just wasn't looking right. I don't know whether it's because it was white pigment ink that was underneath of it. And then I don't know if I put white colored pencil. I don't think I put the white colored pencil over it, and it just was not looking right to me. But I'm like, I spent all this time coloring it in. I'm going to figure out how to save it. So after that's all done, I decide I don't like the white eyes, so I'm going to take a black brush pen and go ahead and color in the eyes and the nose. Well, then the right eye was a little bit larger than the left eye, so then I tried to even them out. It just was one of those things that nothing really seemed to be working for me. Went back over the feet again because I thought that was the problem. And then I decided to fussy cut it out and see, okay, maybe once it's off of the paper, I can kind of see what needs to be done. So I fussy cut it off screen because nobody needs to see me do that. And then laid it down onto the background paper and looked how it was going to be. I did not love it at all. I was like, okay, let's see. Do I go back to the other one? Do I try to do another color of that one? Or do I try to save this one? So I keep putting it back and forth. Do I want to put it on top? Do I want to put it underneath? What do I want to do? Do I want to scrap it? Now I go back in with some of my colors and I just try to start blending it. Is it the body of the fox that I don't like? Is it the legs of the fox? And it most likely was the legs. Once those got to be a little bit more of a solid color, I liked them a lot better. And then I'm going to go ahead and add the little white dots to the eyes and then 3 eyelashes on either side of his eyes or her eyes to make the fox look pretty. And then I always think eyelashes and those little white dots in the eyes just really make the entire image come together. And at that point, I wasn't totally thrilled with it, but I was much happier than I had been before I fussy cut it out. Just adding a little bit more color, and then we are going to go ahead and glue it down, and I'm using my Barely Arts glue. I'm really loving this for fine details. I do use the pin kind of to pull some of that glue off where maybe I got a little bit too much in the area, like that one leg on the left side. I will pull a little bit of that glue out because I don't want it to seep out of my project, especially when that's where the sequins are going to go. So once that's done, I'm going to attach it to the background, and then we're going to get started on the shaker parts. I'm going to take some of that light kaolin clay that I have and run it over the back just in case there's any glue or fingerprints or anything that's on that piece of cardstock that would potentially cause static and cause the sequins not to move. And I'm doing the same exact thing inside that shaker well. I'm going to make sure that I go around the edges of where the tape is to take any sticky that would be on it off. And you can see there I have the edges on the outside, kind of where the piece is folded over is actually away from that shaker well. So I'm using a couple of old Sparkle Blends. So Sparkle Blends is a company that's unfortunately no longer in existence. I used to buy a ton of stuff from them. So this one is called Apple Crisp, and it had some really pretty fall colors in it. But that piece that I was digging out, there's little apple clay pieces in there. But I didn't want them in there because there weren't apples in there. If there were mushrooms, that would be perfectly fine, or leaves or anything. So I put that in there, and then I had kind of a autumn color circle one in there, and then I dumped in some red sparkle pieces from, I can't remember the name. If I remember the name, it'll be listed below in the description box because they're available still. I took off all the backings, added a little bit of glue to that just to give it a little bit of wiggle room, and put it down. And I should know better than to shake it right away. I should know better. Things were falling out, and I didn't give time for the adhesive to seal everything together. I get impatient and I go ahead and shake things. So now I have to lift up the back. I'm going to add a little bit more glue to it, put all the sequin pieces back in, and then really press down on the paper to make sure that the glue has had time to make contact with that paper and really create a nice bond on all of it. You can see I'm going around the edges of where all of the foam tape is to make sure that it's glued down. Again, I probably shouldn't have shaken it right then, but I'm impatient. So I'm scoring my piece of cardstock at 5.5 inches. So I've created a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch top folding card. Going ahead and adding that panel to the front. And I also do, which I lost the footage on this, but I did stamp on the inside, dropping off some love and well wishes, because this is going to go with the care package for my aunt. I'm picking up a bunch of stuff from Target from people that I know that have had chemo that said things that they wanted, like blankets and warm socks and things like that, especially since it's getting towards more of the fall season. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have comments or questions, please feel free to leave them below, and I'll see you again real soon for another video. Bye!